Hi, I'm Allie,
And I'm Mia.
and this is our video on balance in measuring poverty. In this video, we will cover a definition of poverty, different ways to measure it, and how we believe it could best be measured. Within these points, we'll include possible counterarguments and evidence-based redirects. So to start, what is poverty? Poverty is an economic state where one does not have sufficient income or governmental financial assistance to meet their basic needs and meet societal expectations. However, many academics, such as Robert Rector, a leading authority in poverty, welfare, and immigration reform, still predominantly look at materialism as a large indicator of how much one is struggling. He claims that the typical household defined as poor by the government had a car and air conditioning, which means that misunderstanding and exaggeration are commonplace when talking about poverty in the United States. To Rector, if a family can afford these formerly deemed luxury items, they are able to afford basic necessities such as food. The proof that Rector's argument is not substantial is in the fact that OPM and SPM would still classify the people with adequate materials, such as a house with an AC and fridge, as living in poverty. Additionally, poverty is also about social injustices that OPM, SPM, and materials cannot measure. So Rector's argument does not account for a person's quality of life or dignity.
Poverty is currently measured in many different ways, but most fall under two large categories: absolute and relative measures. Relative measures use input from your community to set a poverty threshold relative to others living in the same area. Relative poverty measures are often used for comparison across nations. The main focus of this type of measure is to assess if households have similar resources and opportunities to other households in the area. Absolute measures do not compare to other households. Instead, they compare a house's resources to a preset absolute minimum to meet their FCSU needs. FCSU refers to food, clothing, and shelter and utilities. In recent years, internet and telephone have been added to this. Their thresholds are a finite dollar amount, only adjusted for geographical location.
As we dive into the various poverty measurements, we will use a family example to cross-compare how the different measurements deem the family impoverished or not. The family is a family of four from New York City that has an annual pre-tax income of $35,000. The parents who are not married but cohabitate work traditional 9 to 5s Monday through Friday while the kids are in elementary school. Additionally, the youngest kid has type 1 diabetes.
There are three types of existing poverty measures we feel are important to explain in order to address our take on poverty. The first of these is the OPM, or the Official Poverty Measure. This is the primary type of measure used by the U.S. government to address poverty and potential benefits. Based on the 1960s threshold, the OPM considers pre-tax income and whether one can afford 3 times of a basic food basket for their family, adjusting only for inflation and legally related family members. This is an absolute measure as it is the same for all people, not taking into account the other salaries in the area or any benefits they receive after taxes.
According to the 2024 OPM threshold from the U.S. Census, our family would not be in poverty with their joint income. However, since the parents are not married, the OPM would not include one of the parents in measuring the household. Additionally, the medical costs for the child with type 1 diabetes would not be taken into account. This means that the family's budgeted poverty threshold is lower than it would be if the OPM accounted for various family dynamics and continuous medical expenses.
The SPM is also an income-based approach. However, it is more holistic when it comes to what it takes into account. The threshold for the SPM is 50% of the median cost of FCSU relative to geographical area. In addition to geographical area, this measure also takes into account government benefits such as tax credits, in-kind benefits, and any non-cash benefits. Similar to OPM, it also adjusts for family size, but includes non-legally related family members.
As opposed to the OPM, the national SPM does consider our family to be in poverty by almost $5,000 from their joint income. Here, both parents would be considered in the SPM threshold, making it more accurate. Additionally, a fact that the family has to pay for the youngest child's type 1 diabetes medication and appointments would be taken into account. Also, the SPM takes into account the geographical differences in FCSU costs. So, if this family lived in New York City, they would be approximately $10,000 under the threshold instead of $5,000.
Capabilities is a much broader approach than the two other approaches, as it focuses much more on quality of life rather than just financials and addresses a person's ability to do certain things which can contribute to or prevent their poverty. While some believe that there should not be a set list of capabilities, others, like Nussbaum, have created lists that can be used to cover a large variety of capabilities that would be necessary for a good quality of life.
For our family example, capabilities would take into account everything that the SPM did while also diving deeper into the family's quality of life. This includes things such as the location of their home for safety and quality of the medical care that their child is receiving. Our take. In order to fairly and justly determine who is in poverty in the world today, a balance of income-based measurements and capability-based measurements is needed. This is due to the fact that poverty is not solely about money, as societal expectations and dignity play an important role. Through the information given, we have determined that the best course of action for measuring and aiding poverty is a combination approach. We chose SPM to cover the monetary thresholds and believe that this is key since income is an easy indicator for policymakers when they are working to aid poverty.
We also chose to include a capabilities approach, which helps give background knowledge on what the SPM is detecting to help guide the policymakers. It can also help raise awareness of non-monetary issues that are present in the community, such as lack of access to education or community health issues.
Why do we believe each incorporated element of each measure is important? Well, the SPM provides the government with a concrete number that adds ease to the collection of data and comparisons when looking at large chunks of data. However, since it does not account for education, healthcare, work opportunities, and more, it is also beneficial to apply the capabilities approach on the community level to really hone in on quality of life and the dignity of the people. Between 2022 and 2023, the SPM rate for those 25 years and older without a high school diploma increased to 30.9%. This is the highest SPM rate among the presented education groups. This statistic shows that while the SPM may be helpful in measuring economic poverty, poverty in other aspects of life, such as the lack of the capability to earn a high school diploma, can correlate to financial poverty in the future. While that may be a matter of functioning rather than capability, a capabilities approach would help in identifying where gaps can be filled to prevent poverty in the future.
Capabilities allows for a more humane approach and looks at each person's individual needs with the intention of respecting their dignity. The financial component of poverty is important, which is why we feel that the SPM must be included. However, many researchers say that when measuring poverty, we must also recognize the importance of other social and economic factors in capturing diverse experiences of poverty. This quote is specifically from an article by Yu Chen discussing the OPM and the SPM. We believe that capabilities is the best way to address this because, according to Nussbaum, one of the largest contributors of the capabilities measure, the measure focuses on the protection of areas of freedom so central that their removal makes life not worthy of human dignity. Things like education, healthcare, basic nutrition, and the ability to socialize are important skills that can contribute to poverty, which are addressed by Nussbaum's approach, making her version of capabilities very beneficial to our combined approach. While we do believe capabilities are very beneficial to our approach, they are often considered to be one of the most difficult poverty measures to implement due to the broadness of the overall concept and how tedious the process of data collection can be, which is why we feel that it would be best applied to communities rather than individual homes.
How does each element help support the community? So, as previously stated, SPM would best be used to determine need for additional government benefits such as SNAP and other welfare programs.
Capabilities would be used more in a community standpoint, collecting data through schools, food pantries, and other community hubs to help put in place some public projects that could help fill some of those gaps that the SPM might not be able to fill.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation today on how there are multiple different pieces that fit into the complicated puzzle that is poverty.